Hi, everyone. I'm Terry, and this is my wife, Teresa Arsenal. We're with Christian Art Creations, and Teresa's going to take it from here.
Hi, like Terry said, we are the co-founders of Christian Art Creations, and we have today one of our lovely and very talented members, Morag Weatherston. Hi, Morag. How are you doing today?
Hello. Very well, thanks. I'm good.
Good, good. And Morag has a wonderful Scottish accent, which always reminds me of my mom, even though she's not old enough to be my mom, of course. But cut. We edit that part out. Oh, he's telling me don't put my hands on the table because it shakes everything. Okay, so Morag, we would just like to, for those who don't know you and what you do, which you do a lot of things, you're very, very creative. Could you just introduce yourself? Tell us whatever you'd like about yourself, where you live, maybe where you came from, and just what you do creatively.
All right. Well, hi, I'm Morag, and as Teresa said, I'm from Scotland. So I've lived on Prince Edward Island since 1990, and I started doing little watercolor scenes of the island because I couldn't get a job, basically. So I made those into little reproductions and sold them all across the island, pen and ink and wash sketches, really. Then I started just doing slightly bigger watercolors. Then I moved into trying my hand at acrylics in the same kind of style, in a way, as watercolor. Mm-hmm. And more recently, I've been dabbling in abstract acrylics on a bigger scale.
Okay.
And so it's quite a long way from where I started.
Yeah. Yes? Did you paint before? Like, did you study professionally painting?
No, I never studied painting professionally, though I did go to art college. I didn't do painting. I did mosaics and tapestry weaving. And then I taught art for a while in New Brunswick before moving to the island here.
Okay.
So yes, I've been interested in art all my life. Yeah, like most artists, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. So you've said that you've done some mosaics. I have seen some of your mosaics. I'm not sure if I've seen any of your tapestries.
You maybe haven't. I think you saw a white one that you commented on. It was mainly just textures. It was all kind of different shades of white, made into a textural kind of hanging.
Okay.
And the mosaics that I've done over here have been using scraps of floor tile, which are really quite difficult to work with because they're so thick. They're very hard to chip into the size you want.
Yep.
Unless you have a wet saw that you know how to use properly. So I haven't, yeah, anyway, I still am interested in doing that, and I have a stash of tile I'd like to get into sometime. And I ever get the time, yes.
Right. Right. Right.
Now, were you doing some stuff with driftwood or little pieces of shells and things like that?
Yes. A lady gave me a huge big box of driftwood from Nova Scotia when she invited me over there a few years ago. And I wondered if I should just dump that or do something with it. So I thought, well, I'll try and do something with it because I do have some shells. So I made a whole lot of configurations of driftwood and shells and other bits and pieces too. So they were kind of fun to do.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Yes. Cool. So you mentioned that you are starting to do some large scale abstracts. Would you like to tell us about that?
Can you
Yeah,
see that on this?
this is the abstract that I've done a lot of different layers on top of one another on this, and probably it was way too big for me to be working on this size right away without working up to it, maybe.
How
But
big was it?
anyway, I'm just every time I come to it, I do something totally different because I'm in a different mood that day.
Yeah.
So it's a trial and error kind of learning
Yep.
thing for me. The
And
last
so,
time I worked on it, I made all these black lines because I thought maybe it would help if I divide this thing up into areas.
Mhm.
right.
And goodness knows what direction it's going to take next. Nobody knows.
I see two birds.
Oh,
Did you do
yes,
that
I know.
intentionally?
That wasn't intentional, and I don't really want it to look like it's anything. Yeah, so I don't know if they'll stay there or not.
Oh, I like them.
I know you love birds, but it's right in the middle, and that's is well, being in the middle sometimes works, but
Hmm.
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know where it's going to go, really.
Yeah.
So what size is this?
Well, it's probably about 30, 30 by 34, maybe 30.
Oh, okay. So it's quite large.
Yeah,
Mhm.
fairly large.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
Very good.
you said you had another picture. Is that what you've done like before
Well,
the
this other
abstract?
one was my former style before I got into abstract, and I suppose this is mainly based on my former watercolor style.
Hmm.
Right.
This is acrylic, is it?
This one is acrylic. So this was a changeover style, I think, because it doesn't necessarily look like acrylic, maybe. And I'm not using the potential of acrylic, I don't think. So it was just, and it's more realistic looking kind of painting.
I love all the texture that you've got going on, like in the clouds and in the soil. You really captured the Prince Edward Island red soil. You know, like you can almost reach out and touch that soil. It's so
See a
real.
lot of that this time of year, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Very nice, very nice. So that's quite a jump from this to the abstract that you're working on now. That's quite a jump for you.
Well, I wanted to become more expressive in my art.
So with abstract, you don't have to be as accurate with lines and that. You can just have more freedom to do what you want to do with an abstract. Is that correct?
Well, yes, but it's not. It's a lot harder to do because you're not. You don't have anything realistic to focus on. You've got to totally come up with it in your own head, and at the same time, keep in mind all the things you need to observe to make it good art. To make it balanced.
Right.
To have color harmony, to have the values working so that you can have proper contrast. You have to know a little bit about all these things and make sure it's working all over to give the kind of picture you want and have enough variety to make it interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, yeah, I'm not being someone who I don't really do abstract in that way. Like if I do abstract, it's more like an acrylic pour or something that just, it's totally random and it does what it wants to do. And that's what it does. And then I go in afterwards and try to make sense of it. But, but yeah, that's really good to know that, because it's hard for a lot of people, artists or non-artists, to understand abstract and where we know that the one artist that we've both kind of followed a little bit, and he he does like big blocks of color and different things, and you kind of like, what's up with that? Just how do you decide to do things like that? So yeah, so it's good to hear it's a little more complicated than what it looks like.
Well, yes, those some abstract art can look very complicated and complex,
Right.
and people gravitate towards, I mean, there's so many different ways abstract art can go, and I must admit I don't understand most of it, and I don't really like most of it myself. So and there's so many directions it can go. I like the idea of being able to see different layers underneath other layers, and maybe the ambiguity of some being on top, or figuring out, are they on top or are they underneath? In a way, it's kind of like life. There's so many layers to life, and so many different ways you can understand life and look at people, and it's all very, life is mysterious.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom or encouragement for the audience, whether you want to speak to other artists or people who are thinking about maybe doing art, or even just what is your process, and how do you invite God into that process?
Well, well, to answer the last question first, I say, if you're living as a believer, you're inviting God into your life anyway, to start with, and hopefully you're getting to the place where you're aware of inviting him into everything you're doing anyway, all day long, even if it's just washing dishes. The Lord is in you, and you're in him. And so it's not a matter of saying, okay, now I'm going to paint. Lord, come and help me paint a what is it, open tomb or something, It's just part of who you are. So you don't, the Lord wants us to have a full, abundant life. So if you feel drawn to doing art, then goodness, go ahead and do it. One thing I found very difficult was getting myself out of the mindset of doing art to sell. And because I did that for so many years, and changing over to doing it just as a sort of means of self-exploration and self-expression and enjoyment of amazing abstract, just visual statements that grab your attention and that just kind of arrest you and hold your attention and make you think. So I suppose this is what I'm aiming for. But if you want to try doing art, or if you're involved in art and you're stuck, I'd say just there's so many ways you could go about it, and so many tips and hints on the internet these days. There's no reason for anybody to feel stuck. Go on Pinterest and even just try copying a few ideas on there just to get you started, get your feet wet, and don't be afraid to make a mess. What's great about acrylic is you can paint right over it. So it's a little bit harder if you're struggling to do watercolor and you hope to do a masterpiece right away. It's going to take quite a bit longer because you have to go through so much materials, and you've got to use fairly good materials to get results.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of great advice. Thank you so much. And we really enjoyed our time together. And God bless you.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. And I think that's awesome. You have this ways of helping Christian artists and showing other people what we're all doing, what we're all about.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Bye.
Bye.